So joining me from over in Dubai, pilot Dean Ricci, how are you?
Hey Regan, how you doing, man? The voice of skydiving.
It's good to see you, my friend. You've got a brand new
Good to see you as
studio. Well. Not only are you a
Yes.
pilot, you're a skydiver, you're an author, you're a recording, voiceover artist as well, and you're in your studio right now.
Yeah. Well, I'm kind of following your lead on that one because I figured, what the heck? They've got enough Brits out there doing the voiceover work. Let's get a couple of Americans at it.
So you're working for a skydiving organization out in the Middle East. You're flying the Twin Otter.
Yes, I am. I've been flying the Twin Otter for quite some time now. Started flying in about 2010.
How did you start flying, Dean? Where did your pilot's ambition come from?
You know, I initially got my my pilot's license when I was 16. I was kind of a pain in the ass of a kid, and my parents decided my at least temporary passion for flying was something that they would try and stoke to keep me out of trouble. So I ended up getting flying lessons back when they were kind of affordable. And got through all the lessons when I was 16, but then of course, like an idiot 16-year-old, I did nothing with it until I started flying in 2003 when I was jumping in Cross Keys.
So after you got your initial license, you let that go, and then you became a skydiver. You started jumping.
Yeah. So with that's one nice thing about the FAA licenses is they're lifelong. They never expire. So you still have the license, you just got to get current. And I ended up becoming a skydiver when I was living in Vegas, as a matter of fact, and even then didn't have the desire to fly again until many years later.
You've got quite a colourful past, my friend. Let's find out what you were doing in Vegas before you started skydiving.
That's one way to put it, I guess. Yeah, man, I was a stripper in Vegas for a long time. I think I did about 8 years in a club in Las Vegas, but all in total, I did that for 11 years. So when I say I retired as a stripper, I do mean retired.
I ask a lot of people on this show, how did you become a pilot? How did you become a skydiver? When did you start flying balloons? But how did you become a stripper?
I'll make a very long story very short. I was trying to get laid, basically. I worked at the local Holiday Inn in Sacramento when I was just 21 years old, and had a crush on one of my coworkers, and had absolutely nothing to offer to someone of the opposite sex. And during a conversation with her and a bunch of coworkers, someone asked me what I did when I was living down in LA. And for some reason, my warped 21-year-old brain said, "Say you're a stripper. She'll like that." So I said I was a part-time stripper. Regretted it instantly, but luckily nobody called me on it until about a week later, when that same girl I had a crush on came running up to me and begged me to entertain at her sister's birthday party. Oops. So that was the very first strip show I ever did. Was completely by accident, but there happened to be another young lady that was at that party that worked with a guy who ran a company in Northern California that did that for a living, and within a week I had a job offer. It was crazy.
And you've had a couple of books out there as well. You've written about it.
Yeah. Well, I was really lucky in that about 10 years ago, I started writing for Blue Skies magazine, which was just a whole bunch of fun. And Laura and Cole are amazing people, and they kind of just let me do whatever I wanted. And I kind of came into being comfortable with that style of writing. So I published one book, which was basically just previously published articles for the magazine that I put together in book form. But then I decided to write a bio kind of on the lives and hazards of a professional stripper. And I called it The Accidental Stripper because, like the story I just told you, I did not intend to end up in that profession. And I kind of wrote it as a series of short stories that led through the bizarre life that was.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. All right, switching it back to aviation.
Yeah.
I'm interested, and I bet a lot of other pilots are interested too, about the difference between being a pilot and being a pilot who flies skydivers. Tell us about the transition of becoming a skydiving drop pilot, and how is it?
Sure. Well, you know, I was very lucky that with that particular type of flying, I found it almost right away. Again, because I didn't have any great desire to work as a pilot. I just wanted to go fly planes, and this was back in 2003. When I started flying again, it became very clear that just like skydiving, it's extremely expensive. So if you're going to keep doing it, you better find a way to get it to pay for you a little bit. So as soon as I hit that commercial hours, I got my commercial license so that I could fly jumpers part-time to pay for flying. But as in this sport, one thing always leads to another. And it turned out to be the most fun flying I've ever done. I attempted to, after I'd been a jump pilot for many years, go join the ranks of the Real Pilot Society, and I got a job flying for an airline out in the Caribbean. And I did about 2.5 years with them, but I hated it. It's just a completely different kind of flying. And my hats are off to the guys that can do that. You know, I've got a lot of friends that have transitioned into airlines that can do this long haul stuff, but I just don't have the setup for that. I'm much more a go up, go down real fast kind of guy.
And that's the trick, isn't it, with skydivers, when at the time the money's on the clock, you need to get them to jump altitude quickly and then get yourself back down for the next lot.
Oh yeah. I mean, most jump pilots that I know are always racing, not the clock, but themselves. I always want to do it a little bit better. I always want to arrive at altitude a little bit quicker. And of course, the trick with skydiving, especially when you've got all these expenses and it's literally every minute counts, is I want to arrive on jump run at the beginning of my jump run at altitude all at the same time. If I've done it the right way, I hit 13,000 feet as that green light should be going on. And I want to be able to do that every single time. And of course, you want the quicker turns and faster, because most of the jump pilots in the States, or in most of them around the world, are getting paid by the load. So if I'm turning slow loads, that's my pocketbook. And skydiving is feast or famine. So you want to get as fast as you possibly can, make it while you can.
To anybody who doesn't know about the sport, it might look very extreme the way you bring the aircraft back from jump run to the runway. It is a very special way of descent.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're descending at the maximum the aircraft allows. It's kind of funny that you say that, because on a number of occasions I've taken observers up in the airplane that for whatever reason they've decided they don't want to jump, or they're nervous, and so they want to go in the airplane first. And I've always said, wow, yeah, if this airplane ride is how you're going to decide whether or not you want to jump, you've made a mistake. That being said, every once in a while I would be on jump run, forgetting that this person has no idea what's coming, and start what I consider to be a mellow descent and watch them literally shit their pants. And it always dawned on me when that happened, oh yeah, this is not normal for most people. Now, that being said, you should, as a jump pilot, a responsible jump pilot, you're bringing that aircraft down within the criteria that the manufacturer allows you to descend that aircraft, but you're basically at max performance all the time.
Yeah. And in skydiving, we've got a lot of communication tools to reach out to other skydivers and to find new techniques and seminars and information. Do you have any kind of connection with other jump pilots? Is there a forum or something you use like that?
There's a ton of them, actually. It's kind of funny, especially nowadays. A lot of people are reaching out and looking for work in different directions to go. And there's a couple of really good groups that push information for jump pilots. I'm lucky in that I work for an organization that is really big on training. And we do extremely intensive training. There's not too many jump pilots in the world that actually get sent to Canada every year to do recurrent training in the aircraft. I do, which is amazing. It's unheard of. But the training really comes down to people being super vigilant. And one of the groups that's out there that helps people do that is a guy by the name of Chris Rosenfeld and diverdriver.com. He posts a lot of really good articles and information, and a lot of jump pilots are on the Facebook group that he's got, exchanging information back and forth. You'll see an incident come up, someone will post a comment or a question about an aircraft, and you'll see all these really experienced guys jumping online to give their answers to what's going on. And a lot of people are like me. I've flown basically 3 aircraft as a jump pilot. Fly the Twin Otter primarily, and that's what I have the most hours in. But I also fly the Caravan, and the PAC 750 was the first turbine. Other than that, my jump pilot experience is very limited outside of those 3 aircraft. So it's always neat to see when people are talking about aircraft that I know nothing about, and it's always a continuing learning experience.
Yeah, it's an incredible profession. It really is. Are you still skydiving as well? You keep current with the skydiving?
I do. I'm not current now after COVID, simply because obviously with all the craziness, nobody was doing any jumping. And when we, like most places, got back to jumping, I was more focused on just doing the flying and then slowly getting back into life as normal. It's funny because now a 3 or 4 day work week seems amazingly difficult. Which, before COVID, we would work, 5, 6 days in a row, and they were tiring, but you were okay with it. Now 3 days, and whew, so I haven't gotten back in the air to do any jumping in that respect. That also being said, I fly a 96 Velo, and I've been off of it for 6 months. So if I'm going to get, or I should say, when I get recurrent, I need enough time to go out and jump a larger canopy for a couple of days, get more comfortable, take it slow.
Have you changed any procedures inside the jump plane while you're working because of COVID-19?
Yeah, at first we were starting out, when it first was hitting and before any really big measures were being taken, the pilots were wearing masks, but it's extremely difficult to be able to use the microphone, to do everything else that you've got going. And I wear glasses, and that mask would fog my glasses up. You don't want a pilot with foggy glasses. So when we started really reoperating again, we put with Velcro a plastic divider in between the cabin and cockpit of the Twin Otter. And it's a removable piece of plexiglass, so either the passengers in the back or myself can easily remove it, but it's a barrier that keeps me from having to wear that face mask, while everybody in the back actually is wearing masks.
Are you wearing a pilot parachute when you're working or not? I know some do, some don't.
I do, actually. And we wear them in the Twin Otter, and I know that there's different opinions in the Twin Otter. With the FAA, they say that if there is a divider between the cockpit and the cabin, a pilot is not required to wear a bailout rig. Our company requires us to wear a bailout rig, and at first I was a bit against it. My mentality has always been, especially with something like a Twin Otter, by the time I finally decided that I want out of that plane, it's probably too late. That being said, I've gotten very much used to it by now, and I can envision scenarios where that would be a really good idea. Again, it's always upmost in my mind that right next to me is a big spinny choppy thing. So, jumping out is going to be the very last thing on my mind.
What would you say if you wanted to get your frustrations with skydivers off your chest, and now was the moment to do it? What would be the number one thing? What would be the number one thing skydivers are doing on a daily basis that really gets you going?
Oh man, actually it's kind of different where I'm at now because the pace is a bit different. But when I was flying in the States, it all rotated around that stopwatch that was constantly running. It's a go, go, go kind of thing. So in fact, the very first article that I ever wrote for Blue Skies, I was approached by Cola asking me to write an article from a pilot's perspective about the shit that pisses jump pilots off.
Yeah.
And again, I started from A to Z and I went all the way through it. And she told me, be as over the top as you want, use as many cuss words as you want, and just lay it out. Don't just bark at people, but give them solutions. And it was all about how to load properly, get in, sit down, put your seatbelt on, please, lock your helmets in or put them on your head. All the basic things that we kind of take for granted after a while. And I laid it all out in this article that they ended up printing and then approaching me to continue to write for the magazine. And they titled the article "Pissed Off Pilot." That was why. There was a lot of stuff. I'm lucky in that where I'm at now, quite frankly, like I said, there's not quite that urgency. So the pace is a little bit more relaxed. So the stopwatch is not as big a deal. But it used to be, bottom line, sitting, running on the ground. The longer I sat on the ground because someone forgot a helmet or needed this or that or grabbed the wrong passenger, that would light my hair on fire.
And you've got a great podcast, which has been going for a couple of years now. How long has it been going?
Almost 2 years now. Yeah, man, it's been a lot of fun. In fact, I got you to interview twice for that. Of course, we only aired one because I fucked up the recording. And the funny part about that, too, is you were in the old studio, which was crammed into my second bathroom, which was actually, it's why I still say I'm coming straight from the can, because I got amazing people. I got guys like you and Craig Gerard and Omar Al-Hijalan to come sit in a toilet and talk about skydiving with me, which was fantastic. But yeah, that came about kind of as a promotion for the books and as a sideline with Blue Skies magazine. And the whole design behind Lunatic Fringe, which is what it's called, here's my shameless plug, Lunatic Fringe Into the Void, was it's a bonfire style chat, kind of like this as well. It's not necessarily about skydiving, it's about skydivers and whatever they happen to be thinking of. And obviously I want a lot of history and good stories, but it's about who they are and what draws them to the kind of lifestyle that we have. And it's been really good. As a matter of fact, I just hit a milestone and went past 45,000 downloads. So I'm pretty happy about that.
Fantastic.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's going good.
How long have you been out flying in the Middle East now? It's been quite a while.
Yeah, man, I'm a little over 8 years now, so it's been quite some time. It's been a fantastic run as well, and you know, fingers crossed, it's going to continue to keep going. It's a different atmosphere and a different way of doing things, but it's a good way, you know, and it's been really beneficial, especially for me.
Yeah. And what do you see over the next couple of years? Staying there, more of the same?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of had a 10-year plan for me in the Middle East. That's obviously coming up quicker than I expected. And as with most people, COVID has changed plans dramatically. So I think right now I'm just going to kind of wing things. I'm very fortunate in that I'm still flying. I still have, you know, a place to go to work and still have a roof over my head. So again, priorities have changed a little bit. You kind of take a deep breath and go, all right, maybe that 10-year plan is going to stretch out a little bit more. But you know how it is, especially in this industry, opportunities come up and great things happen and crazy things happen. So you never know. You never know.
You never know. Well, I think that's a good place to leave it. My good friend, Dean Ricci. It's been great catching up with you. And thanks for joining us on Air Sports Things.